So welcome to today's conversation. My name is Mario Piombo, Director of Innovation with Napa Learns, and I am joined by the wonderful, fabulous Lisa Gottfried, infamous New Tech High School digital media educator. Lisa's a great friend and a tremendous educator, and one of our Rockstar Napa Learns Fellows, a Napa Learns Fellow of the Year. And Lisa, how are you doing today?
I'm hanging in there just like everybody else. Just making it great no matter what.
Kind of starting to feel like the new normal.
Yeah, right.
It's creeping up on us, but it's starting.
Today I woke up and I was ready to rock and roll, so I must have gotten enough sleep. And yeah, so you just never know what the day is going to feel like, I think, for a lot of people.
It's true. You're kind of always waiting for what's the next big message that's gonna impact the trajectory of all of our work, right?
Well, that and just, how are you personally just handling
Yeah,
the fears and, the unknowingness of it all.
yeah. It definitely helps that it's a beautiful day outside,
It does.
even though we're all trapped inside. So thanks for joining us. We're starting this series to connect with our Napa Learns Fellows, connect with educators that are close to Napa Learns work, and we're hoping to publish these videos just to provide insight into what does it look like in the world of an educator right now? Because as you know, things have really been turned upside down when it comes to teaching and learning,
right,
for teachers and for parents and for students. And so I think sharing that kind of knowledge about what educators are doing to engage students online is something that we can do to help make things a little bit smoother for our teachers and for students.
yeah.
And so I want to just ask you, like, how has life shifted for you as a result of what's happening, whether it be personal or in your teaching? How does it look different about a month from today?
I think like when we first started, I was all excited because I actually homeschooled my kids for 7 years. So I was super excited actually to be able to homeschool my third kid who I'd never had at home. And that quickly dissolved as I realized like the workload that I needed to do, I was not available like I used to be when I was a homeschooling mom. I ran my own business from home, but it was part-time and I figured it out. But now, there's just so much to do that I like. She wants help with her writing at 11 o'clock at night when I'm just exhausted and have been through the ringer all day long trying to work. So it's been, she's not getting a huge amount of work done. So as a parent, I'm a little worried about that. I'm going to get on her case today and see if we can get some work done. And then just as a teacher, for me, like I usually teach in a asynchronous manner anyway in the classroom. So I don't think I would change much in the way of my practice other than like none of my students have access to any of the applications that I teach in the classroom. Well, some do and some don't. So it's an access issue. So I'm having to sort of rethink. It's not a problem for me how to set up the lessons and how to teach them necessarily as it is so much as like what is the lesson based on what it is that they have at home or don't have at home.
Yeah, that's true. And I think access is like a reoccurring theme that we're hearing from educators and parents, really, whether it be internet or devices, down to specific applications in your situation. And everyone has technology, but they don't all have access to the same level of applications or connectivity, or maybe households that students are sharing a computer or sharing multiple computers among multiple students, or multiple adults who are trying to do their work and telecommute. And then,
And
also,
I have to say,
yeah,
I just got off a call with 120 international educators. This is a worldwide problem and a worldwide concern. And they're talking about like ways that they could reach kids with TV and with radio and other means of media. So
yeah. On that note too, like as it relates to access, why is, could you explain what asynchronous learning is for people who may not be familiar with
yeah,
it? How might that be an access?
yeah.
enabler?
So asynchronous learning is basically where I take a child through a lesson through screencasts. So I record myself walking them through a lesson. We talk about it. I show them my screen. The whole lesson is sort of packaged. So it would normally be the lesson that I would teach from the front of the classroom. But the reason why I switched to recording myself is that, first of all, I lose half the kids when it's a live lesson. So it's a constant fight to get kids to pay attention when I teach from the front. And this way, kids can actually access the lessons when they're ready for them, or when they need to go back to a lesson and look at it again. So when I was in the classroom, I became just the support person that was there to answer questions if they got stuck, or to help them puzzle through their thinking process. It freed me up, especially in a really large classroom. I taught, sometimes it was like almost 50 kids in a room at one time with another teacher, but I'm the only digital design teacher in that moment. So in order to do that, you have to allow kids who want to move forward with lessons when they're ready, and those who want to go slower when they're ready. So it's been a great equalizer for students who learn at different paces. And then it's a great, especially in high school, it's a great thing to be able to say, look, I'll teach from the front if somebody needs it. If you don't feel that you can actually pay attention right now, I'm okay with that. You do not have to be here for this workshop. Go on the computer, go access the video that does exactly the same lesson I'm teaching right now. And it is one of the most amazing ways to manage my classroom. I never have a kid, they always stop talking. I never have a kid walk away and say, I'm gonna go watch the video. And I immediately get kids to non-coercively pay attention in class, because they recognize there's a value to having a in-person person teaching a workshop in class. So that's been awesome for
Yeah,
me.
well, and I think too, like what I really love about the asynchronous model is it's really learning on demand, right? And
Yeah.
so, you know, I don't know about anyone else who's watching the video, but I'm sure you and I are like very similar, I think, in a lot of ways in terms of how we think. And whenever I get stuck on something technology related, I instantly go to YouTube. I mean, it's like faster than like emailing someone who I know who does it, or, trying to do a Google search. I instantly go for a video.
But the difference is, it's a specifically targeted video,
Right.
only speaking to my class about that project. So they don't have to wade through and vet all of these YouTube tutorials. It's very specific. Here's what you need to do next. Here's what you need to do after that. Here's what you need to think about.
I
And
like
it's very specific to that project that we're working on, which is, it's kind of like using YouTube, only I'm making my own. So
you're the YouTuber.
yeah.
And do students ever create their own videos?
Yeah.
What does that look like?
So it's actually part of their oral communication grade, is that I will often have them, once they've done a project, reteach something that they learned in that particular project. And then we'll use those videos over again. Like if they're really good, we'll use them in place of me for a tutorial, or we've used them to teach people all over the world like how to do really cool things on the computer. So
That's so cool. And
yeah.
then what an amazing way to engage them in their learning. I know when I was in high school, I was TA in our photography class, and the teacher was like it was a film photography class with a dark room, and the teacher really leveraged me to build out the advanced portions of the program to be digital, because I knew Photoshop and digital photography. And so I went back to Napa High, like I want to say like 3 years ago, and it's almost been like 10 years at that
And
point.
they're
Or
still using your stuff.
they still had like a
Yeah.
poster in the
Right.
dark I created on Photoshop on how to use the enlarger.
Yep.
And it's so empowering for students to be a part of instruction and a part of teaching through technology.
And like other kids will listen more if a student is teaching them. um they just kind of tune me out because I'm an old fogey, but
What tools do you use to build those asynchronous learning opportunities for students?
At New Tech, we use a learning management system called Echo. I know that some of the district was using that for a while and are not anymore, but that's just a way to serve the links to the videos. And then all the videos go up on my Google Drive.
Yeah.
I don't use YouTube anymore because we had problems with losing. I lost a whole bunch of years of content when we moved
Oh no.
from our from newtech.org to nvusd.org
Okay.
for our emails. So everything lives on my Google Drive, and that way I can go back to it.
And
And
how
then
do you actually do a screen recording?
and then I use for me, I have a Mac, so I use QuickTime, which is
Nice.
built into every Mac. And then for other people who are on PCs, you can use Screencastify, and there's some other screencast programs where you could, and basically and you could even use your Zoom account, right? So I could share what's on my, that way you'd see my face and you'd see my screen, I think, at the same time. I'm not sure. So you could use your Zoom and just talk and just walk through what's on your computer. And the cool thing is, for students, it really gets them thinking about procedural thinking, how to follow directions, because if you have to write your own directions, all of a sudden you appreciate the directions that your teacher is writing for you. So there's some math and some thinking there that's kind of useful. And then
Yeah, I think there's no excuse, right? So it's like
right,
if a student comes back and says, "Hey, I don't know how to do this," it's kind of like, well, we both know
learn.
what the answer is on the video and learn and come. If you have a very specific question about how to tweak something or do something a little different, or you're running into trouble and you've already tried it, then we can talk.
Or
But
it cements what they just learned. So they just learned how to use a certain tool. Then if they have to go teach somebody else, which I do a lot in the classroom too, like, I'm going to teach you how to do this, you're going to teach the next person. I teach like whisper down the lane in my classroom. So if they don't remember, then they have to go back and look again, and it really cements the lesson for them.
nice. Well, I also wanted to ask you a little bit about your LOL project. What's
Yeah.
LOL?
So a group of international educators, there's about 5 core people, and then there's about 15 to 20 other people all over the world who are a part of an organization. They're either a part of 100.org, which is an organization that I belong to that helps to promote innovations in education around the world, or they're members of the Adobe Education Leader Program, which is also an international organization of Adobe educators. So I just tapped into a couple of really important networks that I have. And it all came about because a friend of mine who lives in Yorkshire, England, and I were talking via Zoom like 3 weeks ago when all of this was first going down. And we were both pretty upset about it. And we were meeting to talk about education, but really it became a conversation about like, what's going on with you with the virus, what's going on in the United States with the virus. And I walked away from that conversation feeling so much better that like I wasn't alone, that even in England, somebody was going through the same stuff and had the same questions. That I thought, well, if it's making me feel better, I want that for my students. So how do we have that happen? So this is a presentation that I did literally just hours ago. It was 3 a.m. With a group of about 170 international educators. But really it started with 3 of us sort of coming to the same idea together at the same time. So you'll see here Jeff and Lena at the top here, they met in whoops, I skipped one here. They had a lunch in Denmark 3 weeks ago, and at the same time that they were having lunch in Denmark, and these are people that I've met through the 100 organization, same time that was happening and the news was coming on to talk about the virus, they had an initiative where they wanted to get together kids from Denmark to talk to one another. So at the same time, I posted this on Facebook that said, hey, like, does anyone want to use their Zoom rooms and get kids together, because it's so isolating being at home? Wouldn't it be cool if we could get kids from around the world to talk to one another? And it just exploded from there. It became about 12 of us got together and said, like, what would that look like if we were going to do this? There's Lena, my cohort in Denmark. She is awesome. She's got our website up and running. So within like less than a week, we had a logo, we had a website, we had a Facebook page, and we decided that we were going to host these teen and tween chats and young adult chats, so that people would feel less isolated. And we ran a couple pilot calls. And here's some screenshots of a couple of our pilot calls. And you can see we had like 10 to 12 different countries participating, anywhere from Mexico to Vietnam to Czech Republic to the US, Denmark, Venezuela. And then we usually start our pilot calls. We'll probably continue this because it was hugely successful, with a doodle board. So we'd ask a question like, what was the latest snack you ate today? And then you can see like kimchi, it's not something that I would. So our normal things that we're used to having are sort of extraordinary to people in other countries. So, and we just have fun with that. We put some music on and we talk to one another and we draw. And then we usually give a quick icebreaker assignment, like go run and get a snack and show us what it looks like from your country.
Wow, that's really cool.
So like there's Marmite and Nutella and these really spicy peanuts and roasted seaweed. And of course, like in California, Takis are big. And my friend from Mexico got super excited when he saw the Takis. So that was great. And it's just been super fun. And, we make silly faces at each other. We compare, like, what time is it in different places. We draw together. We're going to start doing another round of pilot calls probably next week, where we're going to have interest-based groups. So this has just been, like, generally, like, how are you dealing with the virus? What's a typical day look like for you? What's it look like outside your window? Like super fun conversations with kids.
That's awesome.
And they're all adult chaperones so that it's safe, with educators. Right now we're looking at how do we keep students as safe as possible? How do we get kids talking more and have adults talking less? We currently have not opened this up to the public yet. We're sort of still keeping within our small groups, but we've reached about 150 kids so far.
Wow.
And we have room for about another 150, maybe 200 kids, just based on the volunteers that we currently have. And we're looking for sponsors and celebrities to come and do like an icebreaker for us. So, and then just things that even if you're not a part of, so I would say stay tuned to the link onlinelearners.org website, because it's changing all the time. And pretty soon, I would say in the next couple weeks, we are going to launch this thing publicly, or allow people to run their own Zoom rooms if they want. But really, it's just about like reaching across cultures. And there's so many commonalities to who we are around the globe, that you can reach across country to country, you can reach across generations, you can even look at school cultures in the same town or family to family. And what we're saying is, in this time, there's never been a time like this where we have had so much in common globally, that we should really take advantage of that and reach out to one another and really start raising global citizens, because that's kind of what's required. And there's, we could end world wars. We could end wars if we have kids talking with other kids from other countries and realizing that we're not enemies.
Yeah, totally. That's awesome. How are you looking to integrate this into your classroom at all? Do you think Do you think at some point you'll have some kind of assignment where students are actually collaborating globally on digital media projects?
I think there's a really big push, especially from some of the Vietnam contingency, that they want to do projects like right now. Like they want something meaningful. Kids are so bored. Oh my gosh, the kids in Vietnam are going on, they're starting their third week of a third month of being in isolation. And a lot of them can't even go out and go for a walk. They live in cities. They've not left their apartments for 3 months.
Wow.
So they're really eager to connect with other people and do
I
something.
can imagine.
So there's no limit to what we want to do. I mean, it could be possible that we're just laying the foundations for an international school. I don't know where this is all going to go. I know that, of course, yes, we are going to collaborate in the classroom when we get back to the classroom. And now that we have such, I mean, like my daughter's involved in this, and she sat in on one of these calls and she's already like, oh, I want to be friends with Mai in Vietnam, or I want to be friends with, you know, Stacy in Canada. So if we can make those connections, it's super easy to sort of do a collaborative project together once we get back in the classroom.
It's kind of like the idea of pen pals back in the day.
Totally. But way more immediate and way more personal, because you've now like been in their home, or you've seen who they are, not just through a letter, but you can see them and talk to them and learn more about them pretty quickly.
In terms of the project, you know, what do you imagine a fully developed thing looking like? A fully developed LOL platform? What would that look like for you?
I think we'd sort of be a hub for whoever wants to run a Zoom room on whatever topic they want to, and that kids could go, like there will always be, we think, 4 different times that calls will be offered, like every 6 hours to hit every time zone.
Nice.
And then that we could list everybody's like a place to register, like it might say Monday at 2 in the afternoon there will be these Zoom rooms, and one will be on anime, one will be on music, one will be on sports. And that kids would then register for the thing that they're most interested in and the time that they're most interested in. And then they automatically get an email that says, here's your link, be there at 2 p.m. Can't wait to see you. That it's something along those lines. And that way, whoever wants to, I mean, we'll vet whoever is offering Zoom rooms just to make sure that they're safe and they have some kind of credentials. We're working on that vetting process now. But that once that's in place, that once somebody is approved as a moderator, that they could run their own Zoom rooms around a particular topic that they're interested in. And there are kids who do many Zoom rooms in a day. Like I have one kid I think did all 4 Zoom rooms, like every 6 hours was in a Zoom room talking to new kids. Or you could be like, if it's regular, it could be like the same kids show up every week to get to really like get to know each other, like almost like an after school club.
That's cool.
But they're from all over the world.
Right. That's amazing. I want to shift our attention a little bit. You know, I think, you know, I think it's connected to this, but, you know, what do you think is going to change in education long term as a result of what's happening? Do you think there will be things that stick, and what do you think those things will be?
Well, I definitely think that in terms of what we call transliteracy, like people's ability to use different media, we've all leveled up, or we're leveling up right now. So I see teachers who have never used Zoom or never done screencasts who are now talking in Facebook chats about like, oh, well, when we get back to my classroom, I could see using this here, 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 and here. So I think that alone is, and even like my parents who are not technically that good now know how to use, how to use FaceTime and are understanding how to use Facebook and social media properly. So I
Yeah.
think like as a society, we've now leveled up in our transliteracy abilities, which is kind of exciting. Um, I would love to see more student center, student choice for real, like not just like that we're talking, you know, that we're giving lip service to it, but that we really understand like that not every student learns at the same pace. Not every student is engaged in every lesson that's offered, but that if you give them more control, because if you have the ability to understand how to create content besides just standing up in front of your classroom, that I'm hoping that that trickles down into the classroom and that kids really get a personalized approach to learning. I'm also really concerned as a person who used to homeschool my kids for many years, 7 years, that we're trying to do school at home, and
Hmm.
that's not what homeschooling is.
Yeah.
That we need a paradigm shift about education and who gives education and where you can get it from. And like I'm talking to a friend of mine who's in Florida who's teaching the same exact project that I am to her digital design kids, but she's strong on photography and I'm strong in video. And I said to her, look, why don't you let's set up the lessons. You do the ones on photography, I'll do the ones on video, and we'll just swap.
Nice.
So I don't, like what is to stop us from doing that? Like, why do we have to be in the four walls of school? A student should be able to access not only everything that's online, but every teacher that's online.
That's
Can you
awesome.
imagine that? Like that's the internet times 100 right
Yeah.
there. Times
Kind of leveraging the power of as you mentioned, kind of globally, we're all in the same place. So what an opportunity to learn from each other and support each other in delivering the best possible learning for our students, right?
and I think like that's what teachers are going to become, is really like content creators, content vetters, to make sure that whatever to help align the pedagogical models with the standards that they're trying to teach. So they're sort of going to become like librarians in a way of learning.
Yeah. What are your biggest needs right now as an educator? How do you need to be supported?
The biggest support that I could get is some clear communications with my students as to who has what technology and who does not right now. And honestly, getting kids connected to the internet is the biggest support that I could have as a teacher. Like, teachers know how to teach. I'm not worried. Like, we don't have to throw a bunch of stuff at teachers. They understand, like, okay, here's what I have. Here are the tools that I have. Here's the content standards. That's my job. I really do believe teachers don't need to worry so much about that. They need a couple simple tools to connect with their kids, and that might be it.
Are there,
Maybe that's naive.
yeah, are there kids who don't have internet at your school, or
Yeah.
that you're working with, and
Yes.
how many do you think that is? If you
I
could,
have no idea. I mean, right now we gave out lessons for the 2 weeks of school, and I would say about 30 to 35% of them have turned in work to me. Um, I also think that we inundated our kids with too much work, and it's crazy to expect kids, especially kids who don't have support at home. They might be in a situation where they're raising themselves. They might be in an abusive situation at home. They might just have parents who are working, you know, long shifts at the hospital or in medical. So they don't have an adult at home to help them. I think that's the part, like, that's where teachers have been really supportive of kids and learning, and that's why school works and is so helpful for so many kids. So right now they don't have us, and I don't know how to coordinate that. Like, we don't want to inundate families with too many calls from their teachers, so we're taking our cues from the district and holding off on some of the reaching out stuff. And then some of it is like special ed. Like, how the heck do you support a special ed kid? I'm used to doing it in my asynchronous classroom, so I always adapt my projects. I think project-based learning is really made for this particular environment so that um, kids can work at their own pace.
Mm-hmm.
I think that giving them worksheets or like, here's a lesson, now do this activity, and doing that every day is going to be really wearing on students. And yet some students are going to need that because they don't have the support at home to do a project. So I don't know what the answer is. I don't know where the support has. I want to connect with my kids again. I want my relationships to be back with them, and I want to know that I can talk to them. So that's like the biggest question mark for me right now, and where I feel like I could use support.
Yeah. What last question would be, how do you think, you're a Napa Learns Fellow, you were a Napa Learns Fellow of the Year. How do you think the Toro and the Napa Learns program has enabled you to tackle this challenge head on?
I think the content that we teach is incredibly important right now. A lot of Toro graduates are offering to teach other teachers how to screencast, how to make assets for their students, how to manage. I mean, we basically learn, how people learn, and really look at online pedagogies or online curriculum, like how you deliver content online. So I think any Toro graduate is going to be so much farther along than I think a lot of teachers are, in terms of like, we were asked to do all the things that we're being asked to do now in our master's program. So we've had practice, we had time to learn it. We didn't have to learn it all in like a week's time and be up and running. We had, a year and a half to experiment and see how it changed our lesson plans and see how it changed our approaches in classrooms. So if anything, I would say, like, yeah, take the program if you're interested in it, and also be really kind to yourself that like a lot of the graduates had a year and a half to do what you're doing in a week's time or 2 weeks time.
Right. Good point.
And just be willing to fail. Just you have to at this point, that you have no choice. So and I would say, reach out to people and like, don't be embarrassed to say, I don't know how to use this program. Like, even as we're doing Link Online Learners, a lot of us are super facile with technology, but it's okay to say, oh, I've never used Facebook posts pages before. Like, how does that work? And just ask, just be like, hey, this is the one thing I don't know. I'm being asked all the time to do stuff that I don't know how to do, and I'm just asking, like, oh, I don't know that program. How do you do that?
Yeah. And we're all here to support each other.
Yeah.
Thank God we have the technology and the tools to be able to instantly reach across the world and support each other.
And we can screen share too, so you can show somebody, like, this is what I'm seeing on my screen. What do I click on?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Things that we couldn't even imagine years ago. And now it's our new normal. Pretty crazy.
It is. I just wish every teacher, be kind, do things that are joyful, that boost your immune system. Don't be hard on yourself. We're all being asked to learn and grow. I have this self-talk going on in my head all the time. Like, who am I? I don't know what I'm doing. Like, what the heck? We're all just like jumping without a net, and like, just take care of yourself.
Absolutely.
Trust yourself.
Exactly. Well, thanks for joining me and having this conversation today. I think it's really going to be insightful for people that are looking to provide asynchronous learning in their classroom. And I'm really excited about LOL. How can people get connected or learn more? How should they be tuning in to your channels to learn more?
The best thing you can do is go to linkonlinelearners.org and look for the updates on when the next chats will be. And then we also have a Facebook page, so you can look up Link Online Learners as a Facebook page and just follow us. I think in like 5 days we have over 500 followers, so it's
Wow.
growing pretty quickly. I have a feeling it's going to blow up really fast. So we want to make sure we have all our ducks in a row before we push this to the public, because I think it's going to be huger than we thought.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, we will definitely be following you and sharing that out on our Napa Learns channels as well. Thanks again, Lisa, for making time to hang out with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.